came out. It was the only movie that used that sound in its trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, it became
That's
the
a
meme.
really cool waveform.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I just.
I was watching this
Anyway.
interview with Hans Zimmer where he was going through like his filmography, and he was talking about the Inception thing and how he was kind of amused that like his the whole the BWAAA thing turned into kind of a meme because like especially with like movie trailers, everybody started using it after that.
And also with the cliched, in a world where they use the same sound effect in all the parody trailers.
BWAAA.
Even though none of the trailers say in a world anymore.
Unironically.
In a world.
In a world.
We live in a society. But one man
Wants to change all that with a smile.
Joker. Rated PG. Rated G.
The VHS copy featuring the VHS copy featuring a music video by Pearl Jam. Don't call me Joker. Is that Pearl Jam? I think it's Pearl Jam. Don't call me daughter. I don't know.
Coming exclusively to VHS and Laserdisc.
Coming soon to Disney DVD. Speaking of Disney, according to reviews of Mulan, I mean none of these are
It's
supposed-
bad.
It's bad because they took everything fun out of it.
That sounds exactly like my review of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And
But I mean, at
Well-
least they still had the musical bits.
but the musical
Did they?
bits were
I thought they
significant-
said they were going to take out the musical bit.
No, in Beauty and the Beast they did.
But the musical
Oh, okay.
bits felt less magical and very neutered.
Yeah.
Like, we want to have a whimsical teapot jump around and sing, but it also needs to look like
Something
not
out of hell.
weird.
Yeah.
It needs to look like it fits in the real world next to Emma Watson, which is like,
Let's be real. Nothing in the real world next to Emma Watson looks good. I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
I was just like, where's
Well,
this
like,
going?
He's complimenting Emma Watson.
Yeah,
That's
which-
what he's doing.
Emma Watson, if you're listening, shout out to
And
you.
we know you are.
All two of you.
Let
Emma
us know
Watson
how
may or not
your
be.
wife you is doing, because she didn't she like marry herself or something weird like that?
Yes, according to random Facebook post,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
which
You
which
never know
I
what those
don't
things-
entirely
Facebook
believe.
posts, they're the most reliable source.
Yeah, according to random internet according to random internet rumors, Sylvester Stallone's died like 3 times. So
And Macaulay Culkin was dead.
yeah. And Steve from Blue's Clues died of like drug overdose or something, even though he's like perfectly fine
Yeah.
writing children's songs.
So, are you sure that was in real life, or they were referring to the in-canon explanation for his disappearance from the Blues Clues show?
No, like the going
Because if you dive into Blues Clues deep lore,
blues.
you would know about.
He traded in the
Steve's-
blue dog for the blue meth, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that was like the urban legend all the way, like growing up. Like Steve actually was like this emo character or whatever, and it's just like the simple solution or the simple explanation is like, nope, I was going bald and I wanted to make children's music, so I left the show. So I mean,
Reality can often be disappointing.
reality is what I want.
could
to make
be
it.
whatever I want.
I can turn Drax into a slinky.
Did he actually?
Or no, who was it? No, it was Mantis turned into like a weird slinky thing.
I haven't seen those. I should rewatch the
Infinity War
last
and
two
Endgame.
Avengers films.
Yeah, I have rewatched Infinity War once, and I have yet to rewatch Endgame.
I feel like in context, I'll enjoy the both of them a lot better.
Oh yeah,
Just because
Yeah. It won't quite capture the magic of sitting in the front row of the theater and having to physically turn your neck.
To look at something on the left side of the screen.
Yeah.
Because we were on the very front row, or it might have been the second.
A good friend of ours was like, yeah, I got us tickets in advance so we get good seats. I was like, okay, good. Because every Marvel film I've been to recently, I waited too long and I had to sit in the front row and it kind of sucked. So hopefully you get good seats. Oh, yeah, these are good seats. They're a couple rows back. 2 rows back. Like literally 2 rows back from the very front.
The ideal theater seating is like
middle.
Yeah, middle. And
because
like
you get the best sound.
Small size theater, you get like middle rows and like aisle seats.
Yeah, luckily it was Dream Loungers, so you could like lay back, and that helped. But I don't know. With the Dream Lounge chairs in the theater, I just kind of set those like a medium so I don't fall asleep. And I don't want to be like completely laying down because then I feel all sluggish and weird when I get up. But I don't know. It's the theaters in town here opened up recently.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long that'll last.
I miss going to movies, but
Tenet is like the only movie I've heard of people going to, which is another Christopher Nolan
saw
film.
was like as COVID was hitting, and I went to a movie with Rachel. We went and watched Pixar's Onward.
Oh yeah, I kind of want to watch that.
It's pretty all right.
There's a long list of movies I want to watch.
It is. It hit me in the older brother, so.
Okay. Smacked me right in the older brother.
As you know, Pixar's MO is like, I'm going to take something about you and emotionally manipulate you a little bit to make you cry. And I'm like, I don't want to cry, Pixar. I just want to enjoy your movie.
Yeah.
But Chris, up, brother.
Oh yeah. Are people Brother Teresa
at
fans?
the seminary? We have we are at a Benedictine monastery. It's where the seminaries run out of, and the monks make peanut butter as one of their labora, because they're Benedictines. They ora and they labora.
Do they grow peanuts or do they buy them and then make the peanut butter?
I would assume they buy them. I don't
think it's warm enough to grow peanuts.
No, but anyway. They make some peanut butter and they call it Peanut Brother.
You have to tweet that at Brother Teresa.
I will. I'll make sure to.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll love it.
Is it just like an umlaut over the O? Peanut Brother.
No, the monks aren't in on the memes. You see.
Oh, they're a little busy ora at laboring.
Is the
way about the world.
The motto of the Benedictines is ora et labora.
Pray
the motto of Saint Meinrad is ora et labora et labora et labora et labora et labora.
Lots of labora. Labora Borealis.
Did you watch that 8-bit steamed hams?
No, I
sent to the group chat earlier today.
I basically got off work, went to daily mass, came home, ate dinner, talked to the best man for the bachelor party this weekend, and started the podcast. But I do intend to watch that. It's the 8-bit cover of the piano dub of steamed hams, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is 2 memes removed from the original, and
that is
within a meme.
That's a tier 3 meme. Is what you call that.
This is beyond memeing.
Yeah.
Tier
memes. Find a way. Yeah. Let's see. Earlier, as I was trying to come up with a topic for today, I was thinking about the different DC films. We're gonna have to do the Nolan trilogy at some point.
At some point, I would like to rewatch them first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe reread some of the comics they're based on. That'd be an interesting insight.
For like the source material.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to get Andrew in for a guest appearance any time in the near future, given wedding stuff.
Given his current scenario, how busy he is, and will likely be afterwards. He's in general a busy guy.
Yeah.
He also lives 4 hours away. So.
Yeah, there's that. A little bit of a bummer, but maybe we can do something he'll like because he's a big Batman guy.
I love how we measure distance and time.
Yeah,
and based on how long it takes to get there.
Well, because it seems more tangible, honestly, than just thinking around miles. Because like 4 hours somewhere in North Dakota is almost twice as far as 4 hours somewhere in Minnesota, just because you're driving in a straight line much faster in North Dakota than you are in Minnesota.
You know, that is an accurate statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot more straight going on in North Dakota. It is less straight in Minnesota.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Oh goodness. But yeah, no, it's gonna be it's gonna be a good time.
It's almost exactly 1,000 miles from Fargo to here. I think I went 991. So
You only had 8 more to go. Why'd you stop?
You could walk
I
back
got where I was. I could.
and fall
that
down
would take
at
me
our door.
Da 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 da.
Cool beans. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're about to take a deep dive into the multiple layers.
So several layers deep.
Yes. The
But before we do that,
Tier
Speaking
3
of
analysis.
layers, we're talking about Shrek.
yeah.
Just kidding.
no,
Just kidding.
no.
No, we're not doing Shrek. Someday. I
No.
don't know.
It may
April
be an
Fools?
April Fool's episode.
Yeah. Well, now they know, but they'll forget because that's like 6 months away or more.
And there's only 2 people listening, and we'll have so many more people listening by then.
That they won't.
Way
they won't
more.
even know about it.
Way more of the 2.
Yeah, we might even have bumpers by then, so stay tuned for that. I intend to get on the ball there, but no. We are the Palladian Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
We are today not talking about Shrek, but something else that's very layered. Christopher Nolan's film Inception. So, Inception. Let's see, when did it come out? Was it 2008? Was it kind of after The Dark Knight, but before Dark Knight Rises, kind of?
I believe it was 2008. That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
It came out the summer we went. No, it might have been 9. Somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
Because I
'Cause
know.
I remember it.
I think Batman or The Dark Knight came out.
2010.
Oh, 2010.
I knew that
okay.
off the top of my head. I did not just Google that.
But yeah, it came because I know Dark Knight came out in 2005, right? Or was that Dark Knight Rises?
No, it was after that.
At any rate.
Dark Knight came out 2008, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Anyway, Christopher Nolan.
Batman Begins was probably 2005.
Correct. That's right. Anyhow, so the movie, the basic premise of the movie is that human dreams are accessible through this weird drug device thing that's never really fully explained. But you can plug in basically with another person and access their dreams. And people will hide their deepest secrets or things they want to keep secret in a safe somewhere in their dreamscape. And so Mr. Cobb, played by Leo DiCaprio, he is, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are these guys who specialize in corporate espionage and theft by basically hijacking the dreams of competitive corporate people for other companies and stealing trade secrets and selling them. And they're sort of criminals that go about and do this sort of mercenary like. So they do this one job. I believe Mr. Saito is the name of the man. He's like this Japanese businessman. They're paid to incept, or no, not incept. They're paid to extract. Is that what it was called? I forget what the term.
I think so.
Yeah, extraction, stealing information from this guy. And it turns out this guy's been trained to deal with extractors. So things go wrong, and the job goes bad, so they get out of there. But Mr. Saito, because he's like this crazy rich, really powerful businessman, tracks them down and is like, hey, I let you guys live. I need you to help me dismantle this competitor's empire that he inherited from his father, like business empire. And I want you to try planting an idea in this guy's head to destroy to destroy it, otherwise it won't work, or something along those lines. He doesn't speak very good English in this film, so or at least it's kind of hard to understand the way that Christopher Nolan mixes dialogue. But at any rate, so they're paid to try to plant an idea in this competitor guy's head, which is only theoretical. It's only been known to have been done once
by Leonardo DiCaprio's character
on his wife,
which is sad.
Yeah. So they put a team together. They get this gal, Ariadne, Ellen Page, I think, is the actress. She has to be the architect of the locations in their dreams. And there's this whole sequence with they're putting they're putting the team together and explaining the mechanics of, navigating the dreamscape and whatnot.
The science doesn't have to make sense. It just has to have rules it follows for it to work in sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, I've seen this film several times. I'm still sorting through how it works. I'm sure that's most people's experience.
That's the nature of the movie.
But essentially, you can go deep about 3 layers at the deepest into somebody's dream. So,
and by layers, we mean dreaming within a dream.
Right.
Yeah. A dream within a dream.
Which is called an inception, which is what the movie is called.
No,
by the way.
Inception is planting the idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because an idea is inception. Yeah.
You know,
The trick to
I
it, though, is that you have to, in order for the mind to pick up an idea, it has to think it came from itself. So if you try to plant an idea in somebody else's head, then they can just reject it because they have that freedom.
you can't tell me what to do.
Exactly. So the example they use in the movie is like, if I'm telling you, don't think about elephants, what are you thinking about right now? Elephants. So, but you knew that I tried to put that idea in your head. Whereas if you have to do it, I think you have to dive to like the 3 layers deep in a dream to plant an idea. Or so they think. Or no, that's right. And so they start the job, and then the side of the businessman is like, I want to come along with you to, because I'm curious, B, because I'm paying you, and C, I want to make sure you do this right. So they go along, things are going well enough. They have to kidnap the consciousness of the businessman that they're trying to incept in the dream, but he's also been trained to fight against extractors. And so what happens is a person's mind will create these projections of people and things in the dream, and once the mind figures out there is a adversary, they attack like white blood cells to get rid of you. So if you die in a dream, you wake up. Kind of like how
If you die in the dream, you die in real life.
And so, but because they're going so many levels deep and they're getting drugged to, accommodate this, if you die in the dream in this state, you will actually go to the 4th level of dreams, which wasn't really known, really, but it's called limbo. So time flows differently. Like the deeper you go, the longer time is in the upper levels or something like that. But you could be stuck, your consciousness could be stuck in this limbo for ages and ages. And by the time you get out, it's only been a few minutes in the real world, like the conscious world. So you could potentially go insane.
Kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio and his wife did.
Yeah, because Leo DiCaprio and his wife Mal were really happy together.
Short for Molly. Something I was confused about as a 14-year-old.
Yeah, same. Him and his wife
I'm
like to jump into dreams together and do all sorts of fun stuff and create worlds and dreams. Leo DiCaprio was a dream architect, so he would build these worlds and stuff. And they went into limbo and basically built a life for themselves in this dream state. And so they would like recreate their childhood homes. They built a house for themselves and built like all this stuff. But they were there for such a long time that slowly Mal started to like prefer this level to to the actual real world. And so Leo's like, I kind of want to go back to the real world and like, spend time with our real kids and stuff like that. And so he convinces her that they need to basically have a train in the dream world, kill them so it kicks them and wakes them up in real life.
But to do that, he has to incept an idea.
He has to convince her to do it. And so he accidentally incepts in her this idea that this life isn't the real life. So they have to die to go to real life again. And so she goes kind of insane, and basically commits suicide while they're supposed to be on vacation to try to, fix things up.
In the real world.
In the real world, she commits suicide. And because she had gone a little crazy, she also got a doctor to write this thing to say that she was perfectly sane. And so Cobb had been framed for her murder, and he's been on the run ever since. Basically, he can't go back to the United States. So part of the motivation for him accepting this inception job from Mr. Saito is that he's like, I'm going to use my connections to clear your name so you can go and see your two children again.
That's also why he got somebody else to be the dream architect, because he doesn't trust himself.
Right, and because his projection of Maul keeps showing up in his dreams and hijacking things. So part of the reason why the Inception mission starts to go wrong is this projection of Maul shows up like driving a train through traffic, and like showing up and like killing the guy they're trying to incept in a third level of the dream, so he goes into limbo. They have to rescue him. Mm-hmm. She's like disrupting him, so he basically has to face up to her, the projection of her, because it's in his own brain. It's not actually hers. His projection. He has to sort of let go of her and forgive himself for what he did to her. So that's kind of his arc. So they go to limbo and rescue the guy and plant the idea in his head, and it's all hunky-dory, and then they wake up in the real world and everything's happily ever after.
Or is it?
Or is it? Another thing in the dream world is that because your mind gets so accustomed to dreams, you sort of have to figure out ways to connect with real life. So be able to tell
distinguish
real life from a dream. So people will have these things called totems that only they know the size, weight, and shape of this thing, so they can feel it use their senses and know that they're in the real world. Cobb's problem is he's using his wife's old totem, which is this top. So at the end of the film, Cobb goes back to
meaning like a spinning top.
A spinning top, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Not
just
one
to
of
clarify.
our
a top
a
that spins.
wooden dreidel.
I think it was like metal or whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Whatever. Point is, if he spins it and it doesn't fall down, he knows it's in a dream.
Mm-hmm. But if he spins it in real life and it falls down, then he knows he's in real life. So at the end of the film, he goes back to his two kids. Another thing is he always sees like these visions of his kids, but then like it's his memory of the day he left them, and he didn't stay long enough to see their faces one last time. So he always sees them in his dreams, like that last moment where he only sees the back of their heads. So they turn and run to him and hug him and is like, Daddy. But then when he got back to his house, he started spinning the top on the table and spinning and spinning. And slowly the camera zooms in on it, twitches a little bit, and cuts to black. That's the end of the movie. So it's kind of ambiguous whether or not this is just Cobb's dream that he's back with his kids, or it's real life. Most people, I feel like, kind of interpret it as this is real life, as just kind of a tease, because the top wiggles a bit at the end, and that's, usually the evidence people use that it's probably real life. I forget what Christopher Nolan himself.
To interpretation.
Yeah. Yes. So the film is pretty complicated. There's a lot more to it. It's simpler than I think people usually give it credit for, though. Like, it just takes a bit to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You likely won't fully get what's going on the first time you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you've seen it twice, you probably will have mostly grasped
a pretty
it.
firm grasp, yeah.
But it's one of those movies that's definitely worth rewatching to make sense of things and see where things are foreshadowed and followed up on.
And the filmmaking, like, the thing is, though, even if you don't completely understand what's going on, like, the action's really good. It's really well shot. The special effects and visual effects are really good. Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they filmed the train plowing through cars like for real, or something like. I forget. I was watching a video on how they did it,
Neat.
but yeah, it was just something nuts like that. But yeah,
I think Nolan has a habit of telling stories non-linearly.
and he plays with time. That's kind of one of his things,
Right. So there's
with the
like
exception of the
portions of
Batman
the-
films.
yeah, but there's portions of the movie where you're not sure where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the point because it's like, are we in the dream world? Are we in real life? Past, present, future. It's
Yeah.
all. He really plays with time and space.
Yeah, another feature of like the whole sort of heist deal they do in the guy's mind is there's these things called kicks where like if you fall down or like splash in water or something, your body will wake you up as a reflex. And so to get as like a safety net to get themselves out of the dream, they have these synchronized kicks, and they account for the time differences because I think it's something like, a dream lasts twice as long. It feels twice as long the first level of the dream, and so forth, so it multiplies or something like that. But they have these synchronized kicks that would wake them up. And so they have to get this thing done in time for them to ride their kicks all the way to waking up or whatever.
All the other kids. Anyway,
It makes more sense in the movie.
Yeah, it really is kind of hard to explain, like the mechanics and of how it all works
Even within the
without
movies.
seeing it. Even when you do see it, it's still confusing. But
Mm-hmm.
it makes a lot more sense when you can actually watch it happen.
Yeah. One of the other, I guess, key characters in the movie is Ariadne, who is this young, brilliant kid who Cobb recruits to be his dream architect for the heist. And so, like, this sort of uses a tool to, like, explain how this all work, like, dreams work and stuff. And so, as he's, like, teaching her different things about a dream. But as time goes on, she starts to notice, like, this Cobb's projection of Maul keeps showing up. And so she sort of digs into that because he's not really telling anybody about this thing. Like, his partner knows, but that's about it. And so she eventually, like, gets to the bottom of, like, what the heck happened to his wife and whatnot. So, yeah, she's another key character. We, like, the audience sort of sees things, like, learns things through her perspective somewhat in that regard. There's some pretty, I mean, I feel like Christopher Nolan has, like, a list of, like, regular actors, like Michael Caine is Cobb's dad. Scarecrow is the rich guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what his name is in the movie. Tom Hardy is in this as, like, sort of a guy who can disguise himself as different people in dreams. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Arthur, like the partner dude. Saito is he is the guy he's like the main Japanese dude in The Last Samurai, like sort of the village chief. He's in some other films too. I think Godzilla. Let them fight. Like the modern Godzilla.
Yeah, they're by modern Godzilla you mean like 2014?
Yeah.
Okay.
Modern day 2014 Godzilla.
Because there was one that was really bad in the early 2000s.
I saw that. It was bad.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
I was moderately curious about, like, the remake thing, but then, or the new version, but I haven't heard anything particularly good about it.
Anyhow.
Anyway. Tangent.
So, truth. I think one of the main things the dream or like the movie plays around with is how we perceive reality and what we know to be real. Like, there's the classic question of, like, are we really awake right now? How can you tell?
Mm-hmm.
Which has been handled by, different philosophers through the ages. I think Aquinas' answer to this was like, how do you know what's real? Use your senses. And I think that's sort of reflected in people having totems that they use, like, their senses to, like, sort of reality check, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's kind of one idea, I guess, you pull out of that. Also, I guess there's some interesting stuff with how it kind of plays into cognition, which is this whole deal metaphysically and philosophically and whatnot. But essentially, the idea of like projections kind of reminds me of like phantasms and like ideas that form in your mind. So there's different things like that. If you care to read up on it, I recommend it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I wrote a whole paper about cognition, the process of cognition. I should have just had that in front of me, but it would have been kind of dry and people might not appreciate it. But anyway, yeah, reality, the concept of reality. I guess too. Sort of Cobb's inner conflict, and him and his wife will like, building this dream world for themselves instead of living in the real world with their actual life.
She prefers living in this dream fantasy where he wants to have something substantial and real, not some idyllic falsehood.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a conflict that comes back to bite him.
But also the way he goes about it was destructive.
Yeah. And so Cobb's whole motivation is to get out of this crazy life and kind of manipulating and abusing, other people's dreams, kind of their inner sanctum, their psyche, for personal gain or for, to like make money off of people. And that's kind of messed up too. Michael Caine, was Michael Caine character Cobb's father or was he Maul's father? I can't remember. I thought he was Cobb's father, but like he says, like, so you want to get another one of my students to corrupt or something like that because Ariadne is like his professor dad's student or whatever.
Sure.
And it's sort of implied that Cobb learned from his father like a lot of the theoretical stuff behind dreams and kind of played with it and used it. So it's all portrayed in kind of a negative light. Like, as cool as this stuff is, like,
it's invasive.
Yeah, it's invasive. You're messing with people's minds and their intellects, which is kind of the most sacred inner sanctum of their being. So, yeah. Let's see what other truths can we pull out of Inception.
Messing with people's conception of reality makes them go insane.
Yeah. And it's not a cool thing to do.
No.
Don't go doing it.
If you must be like agonizingly careful about the way you do it, like theoretically it's not really possible with what we have right now, but no, it's a science fiction piece. Its purpose is to be hypothetical
and to be thought evoking.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not impossible to rule out. It's not, you can't rule out the possibility of something like this ever existing.
It seems to be kind of metaphysically improbable, if you think about it that way. Just like the idea of like, as human beings, like being able to like gaze directly into another person's intellect is physically impossible. Only God can do that. Even angels can't read people's minds.
So don't go playing God.
Yeah. But it's an interesting, for the sake of, for science fiction and whatnot, it's an interesting exploration. There's another thought I had, but I can't remember. I guess it's sort of a commentary too, like we're talking about, like the real life and responsibility, like actually loving their kids and stuff in real life versus like sort of living in a fantasy world of your own, like your own sort of personal little paradise where you make things just so. Another thing too is when they go back to limbo, it's kind of crumbling, like because over like you can see all the stuff that Cobb and his wife had made that's just kind of falling apart now. So it's sort of reflecting that Cobb is like starting to let go and these things are starting to slip away. Also, I think Saito also ends up in limbo, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he gets killed in one of the upper levels, and so they have to rescue him as well as the rich guy. But yeah, it's not really in the truth department. I just remember that bit.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good for truth, for the most part.
Yeah. It sort of has it runs parallel to the sort of thing that SAO talks about for a little while.
Yeah.
But the difference there is that they always take it back to the real world. No, that's kind of what the end goal of everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Even though sometimes they might prefer to stay in the virtual, they always...
The value of the real world is always acknowledged.
Yeah.
Where this movie, the point is more to question everything.
Yeah. And so it also sort of, one thing you can take away from it is like...
Well, I guess I would say it's more of a cautionary tale against, like, shutting out the real world and
living in your
solely
own
with
reality.
Yeah.
Because
that isn't really even shared with anyone else.
Yeah, because that's kind of one of the things with like insanity and different things where it's like, and like moral relativism and all that too, is like people like rejecting reality and trying to build their own fantasy worlds. Things quickly fall into chaos and go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't even acknowledge reality exists outside of you and your little world that you build for yourself. And that there are good things outside of you that you can, experience, like having a family or something like that.
Right.
As an
Everything
example
that they built in the dream was directed inward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rather selfishly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the point. It's like, and everything that they do, like when diving into the dreams of other people, it's very selfish, personal, gainy.
Kind of nihilistic to a point.
Yeah. There's really no good reason that they ever have to dive into other people's dreams.
Mm-hmm.
It's always invasive and malicious.
Mm-hmm. Another thing too is like in order for the idea to take in this guy, they actually have to play on his relationship with his father and sort of bring him catharsis. Because he had sort of a complicated relationship with his late father, and he inherited this business empire from him. And so in order to plant the idea, they have him go back to his father's deathbed, who tells him, how much he actually loved him, and then, he wants him to make his own life for himself, and that convinces him to break up the corporate empire.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of an interesting thing there too. Goodness. Although people are doing kind of highly unethical things at the beginning of the movie, like Cobb is definitely trying to like get out of, he's trying to leave this all behind him and make up for his past wrongs.
Because it turns out killing his wife leaves a bad taste in his mouth about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Inadvertently killing his wife, I should say.
Yeah. Driving her mad when all he was trying to do is bring her back to the real world in the wrong way, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, goodness.
He kind of forms a almost fatherly relationship with the young
Ariadne, yeah. He sort of is trying to steer her away from becoming what he is, because it turns out she's pretty talented at this dream architecture stuff, and she takes to it really fast. And he's trying to like keep her from, basically turning into him, because that's kind of how he started out too. And so there's that whole, don't, learn from my mistakes kind of dynamic that they have together. Yeah. Beauty, again, very well shot. Hans Zimmer score, excellent. Very atmospheric.
Effects and
Yeah, I think the special effects above all are kind of the high point of the appeal of this movie in a aesthetic sense, because it's just like all the scenes where the city just like folds in half and rearranges itself into something completely different as they're like walking through it is just mind-boggling.
The hotel hallways that like stretch and rotate during like a hand-to-hand fight scene.
Yeah.
And like gravity's all flipping weird,
and some of the filmmaking techniques too, where like they're talking about how you never know when a dream starts, and the scene just begins where they're like sitting in a cafe outside, or like at a outdoor restaurant of some sort, And so like the scene just starts in the middle of this conversation. It's like, you never know how a dream starts. Like, how do we get here? And like the girl's like, and then the audience is like, wait.
We weren't told. We
Yeah.
just assumed, basically.
Yeah.
It's like the editing in this film is spot on.
Yeah. And because it's in dreams, it allows for like things that are physically impossible, such as an endless staircase and that sort of thing, which is used as a tool.
Some really creative set pieces in this film that are just visually fantastic.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan is a pretty masterful visual storyteller as well as atmosphere. He's very good at building atmosphere. That's kind of him and his chemistry with Hans Zimmer that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very aesthetic.
Very aesthetic.
Unity. The film definitely ties together. It, in fact, it's got sort of a classic Nolan thing where it, messes with the concept of time. So the beginning of the movie is something that actually happens at the end of the movie, kind of, sort of.
And the middle stuff happened before the movie, and
but like the movie explains the rules it's playing by and sticks to them.
Yeah,
it doesn't deviate from
That's
the way the mechanics of dreaming, and it uses those like as part of the storytelling.
Again, that's what good science fiction does. Good science fiction doesn't follow like natural rules or real science rules. It follows them just enough and then makes up its own rules. And as long as it's consistent with its own rules, you can suspend your disbelief at the door and have a good time with it.
Yeah.
But it's when they start contradicting themselves and being like, but wait, that's not a thing you can do.
Yeah. It does brain-bending stuff, but then it tells you, this is what this means in this movie and sticks to that. So, because otherwise it would start to get kind of convoluted and vapid and wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
It would just look like the movie's doing whatever the heck it wants to do. Which it kind of does, but at least it gives us an excuse.
Because especially when you're dealing with trippy stuff like dreams, you have to sort of figure out some way to make sense out of it because dreams don't make sense.
But the other thing is everyone's had dreams, and so every rule they can make about dreams is like, oh yeah, that
makes you think about dreams you've had.
Right, and it's like, oh yeah, I've experienced that. That
you never know when
sense.
a dream starts.
Right.
Like it's kind of a true thing. Different things like that are super
so it's
cool.
like it makes sense because we've experienced it, even though like it's not science fact. So it makes rules that we can relate to and make sense to us, so we'd like accept it.
Yeah,
that's what. It's just good science fiction.
Yeah.
But also in the overarching themes of the movie, the question of reality and the what's real, what's a dream, all that is really everything to do in that movie.
I guess one thing I want to backtrack to, maybe Riley could comment on this too, is like as Catholics, I sort of referenced it a little bit, but as Catholics, how do we deal with philosophically the question like how do we know what's real? Like there's the ways of knowing, of course. Which
there are many ways of knowing.
Through like, there's like empirical knowledge, and then there's also like logical knowledge.
Yeah,
and
there's
spiritual things.
there's phenomenology, which is a fancy word for just common sense, like using your senses and perception and taking that at face value, which is sort of essentially what Aquinas says you should do. Like, unless you have a legitimate reason to doubt what your senses tell you, don't. In the case of the dream world, you have your totem that is a piece of evidence that would suggest to you that you're in a dream, and therefore not every rule that you're experiencing is necessarily the way things are in reality.
And the characters in that movie have a reasonable reason to doubt their senses.
They do. But if you're an Enlightenment philosopher, you'd like to believe that everyone should forget everything they ever knew and start from scratch.
Yeah.
And that everything you know can only come from pure reason.
Which
what's their reasoning?
Yeah.
What
sort of experience has led you to believe that?
Yes. They don't. What sort of reason has led you to believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have to be. You have to be able to reason to that. That reason is the only thing that you can use
One of the weirdest
to determine
things
reality.
about, like, the most extreme bits of the Enlightenment was like with the French Revolution, where they literally set up Notre Dame as a temple to reason. So they got rid of God and made a god out of reason. So it's like, do you not see what you did? Okay.
Yeah, that's reasonable. That makes sense.
I was actually, I think the most recent Bishop Barron podcast was like, they were sort of commenting on a book. I believe it was called something like Creating Atheists or something like that. But they were commenting on this piece that was talking about how to like talk to a religious person as an atheist and try to bring them to doubt, how they, their beliefs in God and how they came to know them, It's it's kind of funny because Bishop Barron gets pretty animated with those sorts of things that annoy him a little bit, because there aren't very many new arguments for atheism that haven't already been addressed, but it kind of deals with like, how do you know, like, this is what's what, and sort of like sometimes that question sort of ignores the obvious.
Right.
So don't ignore the obvious. Truth exists. Reality exists outside of you. You know that through your senses. And you may not to get all, like, sort of paraphrasing Pascal's wager or anything, but you may as well believe that reality exists, because otherwise you'll just go insane. It's not really direct. Like, Pascal's wager is like, God may or may not exist, but may as well act as if he does. Sort of. That's very
The
rough.
consequences of not are much worse than the consequences of acting as if he doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As if you guess wrong, you go to hell. If you guess right, you get 70 years of doing whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
If he does exist and you do live your life for him, you get to spend eternity in happiness. And if he doesn't, you spent 70 years, maybe a little less than you would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hedging your bets, pretty much. But it's
well.
not exactly the same thing, but hedge your bets against
relates.
reality, because that'll just make your life so much better.
Mm-hmm. If you accept reality, and try to learn more about it and understand your place in it, you'll end up a much happier, insane person, and you'll be able to relate to others a lot better too.
But others aren't real.
Yeah, nihilism is so juicy.
It's like, we have so much in common. I exist. You exist.
We all
I can relate
exist
to you on that level.
together.
How crazy is it that we exist?
Actually, though. Why be? To be or not to be?
That is certainly a question.
That is an question.
And singular question.
Will we ever cover Shakespeare in this podcast? No.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
There's some solid stuff in there, but we're not quite the podcast for that.
No.
That stopped being pop culture 100 years ago.
Yeah. I don't have the energy for that.
I mean, Shakespeare's fun stuff.
It is.
I want to, like, the pride and joy of my nerddom, like, the nerdiest thing I own is Shakespeare's Star Wars by Ian Dosher.
Mm-hmm.
They are the most delightfully stupid things. They're
Star
like,
Wars in
just
the
like
iambic pentameter.
Yeah, iambic pentameter,
Yeah.
old-timey, like, Shakespeare language, even a few new made-up words that combine the Star Wars lingo. It is so great. You thought Anakin's love dialogue was dorky in the movie. Wait till you get a load of this sap. It's so funny.
Good stuff.
Tangent.
For more good stuff, you can listen to us on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can follow us at Pile Papist when I remember to tweet on Twitter or Facebook. You can also email us with your questions, comments, concerns, and complaints. I remember this
There
time.
you go. Good job.
And at thepalladiumpapist@gmail.com. If you have suggestions for a future episode, let us know. Yeah, we will catch you guys next week with more.
We haven't got anybody yet.
No, it's kind of hard to catch them.
We need to keep checking the traps.
Yeah. Anyway, I say that a lot. Later.